Good morning, everybody. We're going to have a look at the chart. A bit of a late start. I know my videos have been a bit irregular. For those who don't know, I'm sort of dealing with some family emergency. Somebody's in hospital, an elderly family member, basically, and I'm basically with them every day. So it's difficult to do these videos. I'd say it's very difficult to do the streams at the moment. So you just have to bear with me. But at least the price is going up, I suppose. And the main situation that we've been in this entire time is that I believe very strongly that between now and September we should meet new all-time highs for Bitcoin and some of the stronger altcoins out there, and that's the direction that it would appear to still be going. So a lot of people are saying, "Oh, the 4-year cycle's broken," and this, that, and the other, and I can't handle it, and it's all finished, and well, that's never been my view. So you could watch me every day, and we can get little morsels of the market if you're looking to trade, perhaps. But generally, don't have in that expectation, that projection that we've had for a long time as well. I mean, we've had it for, I'd say, 18 months, 2 years. We've been saying that that's the deal. And I still believe it because the model still fits. My expectations remain the same. So obviously, if I can't make a video every day, just remember the higher term timeframes. I constantly explain my expectations are made very clear. And I suppose at the moment, it's one of those times where you're like, oh, maybe I am still right. Hopefully, I am. I'm not saying that I am the right one. I'm the master and I'm absolutely right. But I'm just saying, at the moment, it kind of looks that way. Anyway, let's have a look at the short-term timeframes as we've now moved Bitcoin above the 101, which was the target that I had on this. Since we started to move up from these golden crosses down below into the 70s, which I actually still have along from 79,000, which I'm still keeping on. It's not a massively leveraged long, but it's there all the same, which is nice. And then all those people that were saying, "Oh, well, it's May, and you have to walk away in May because it rhymes." So maybe that's what they've done, which again would be a shame. And if you're gonna treat trading like a battle rap, maybe it's not for you because next month is June, and that rhymes with doom. And then we got July, which die. So unless you can think of some better words to rhyme with each month, it's going to be very difficult for you to trade if everything's about rhyming words. Right, so let's start with just thinking about Bitcoin's momentum. Right, so we've got bearish divergence so far on the money flow index, one drive, that's all. Nothing on the RSI, which is really quite good. And also another really good view to take is always back down to the weekly, which is something that I've always tried to reference. Now the weekly money flow index is still all the way down here, at 43. So if Bitcoin wants to really make continuous large moves up between now and September, it's absolutely capable of doing that. Normally you look at any chart for peaks and you look at the money flow index, outside of the comfort zone, 80, 90, 95, obviously. But for us, down here, at the moment, Bitcoin is down here at 42.50, which, as far as I'm concerned, is barely getting started. So actually, this makes it look like it's capable and maybe even destined to make a parabolic move between now and September to reach wherever price it goes to on the chart. Second to that, though, that's basically all there really is to do with Bitcoin. We can look at the 4-hourly just briefly, just for a bit of warning. You're always going to, not a 45-minute. Who looks at the 45-minute? We can look at the 4-hourly, and you will see some sort of ideas that you might want to be thinking about pulling back from. But actually, no, there's not really any. No, there's no loss of momentum. Nothing like that. It's just the money flow index came up to around 86, which is still not the highest you'd be thinking about, even on a 4-hourly. So more than capable of taking itself to another level. And I think the most obvious place for this to go, if it were to try it, I'm not saying it's going to do it today, but if it were to try it, is the candle body tops from the previous top, not the wick top, but the candle body tops and that comes in at around about 106. So we're not far from there already. So 106 is the next level. So $106,000. We could be seeing that today again without any real sign of slowing down. It might sound shocking, but 106 is absolutely on the cards. Now, Ethereum. So Ethereum's dead. Didn't you know that? Ethereum's dead. That's not Ethereum, that's EOS. EOS is dead. Well, EOS might be dead. Ethereum's dead. Didn't you know that? It's never coming back to life. Well, it's always been a bit of a rough chat, I have to say, but it doesn't look dead to me. It does look, though, however, that it has approached the first major resistance, just about to, 2,400. That's a big resistance. So as far as an indicator for altcoins, maybe, just maybe, this is where things get a little bit tricky for altcoins. If you get pulled back from this, this is a standard death cross. The first time we've hit the 200 exponential on the daily since losing it over here and obviously gathering the death cross. So this is a big death cross retest, and it's at a horizontal as well, 2,400. So that might be something to consider if you're riding any particular pump and you're thinking about trading, and you've got to think about an exit point from a trade perspective. Remember, no markets are simple. Nothing is exact, and there's so many angles you can take from it. But sometimes, the most obvious thing to do is, buy at a support, which in this case would have been, you reclaimed the 20 moving average here, found the 50 as resistance. Every time you come down to a 20 moving average, it's a 65% more likely to remain above that portion of the band. It's the standard Bollinger Band strategy. That's where we hit 1,800, 20 moving average on the daily. 65% chance of survival, and massive reaction from that. Now, I'd say you've probably got a larger chance of rejection, so 65% or chance of survival. I'd say about a 70% chance of resistance. So you're playing the odds, aren't you? More chance of bouncing from here, more chance of rejecting from here. We can all hope for more. Hope isn't a statistical situation. Hope is one of belief and particular bias. And there's nothing wrong with that. And again, like I said at the beginning of the video, I do expect that it will continue in a particular direction for at least a few more months, around towards September, where we should reach a peak. However, in the event that we get rejected from anywhere in the short term, it's going to be here, 2,400. If it does make itself up a little bit higher, we could see another $400 move, 2,800-ish areas. We've got another death cross retest here, 200 simple moving average, 2,700, then a nice big horizontal area, 2,800. Look, it's just statistics, right? If I give you 70% chance of resistance, that leaves a 30% chance of error, which means in this case, higher prices. It doesn't mean that I'm wrong. It doesn't mean that I'm right. It's just the odds. There's no perfect odds, is there? There's no point in sending me a message going, well, it didn't get rejected, so you're a massive a-hole. Well, I didn't say it was definitely going to do anything. All I was saying is, statistically, it's more likely to get a rejection. That's all. Have you ever bought a lottery ticket? Do you want me to explain the statistics of that decision? I bet you've done it anyway, haven't you, really, knowing that the odds are dramatically against you. If you had odds of 30% chance of success on a lottery ticket, you'd buy them absolutely every single week, wouldn't you? So that's basically what this is right now. There's 30% chance of it breaking through and moving up to higher prices. Is that odds that you want to play? Well, the odds would suggest it's more unlikely that it'll do that, but it's still 30%. Like I say, if you bought a lottery ticket, why not buy some Ethereum at resistance? You get the point, right? It's not about right or wrong. It's just about statistics. And look, I got plenty of Ethereum. I got tons of it. Well, I say tons. I got double-digit Ethereum, so that's all I've got. But I'm sure there's plenty of people out there with more. But yeah, I've got enough, and so obviously I'd like it to continue, and I expect it to continue eventually. But in the short term, maybe not. We'll think about XRP. So XRP is pretty cut and dry. There's a very simple way to look at this, and I'll leave it with you on this chart. This will be the last one I'll do for the day. So it's pretty simple. We've broken out of momentum. That's happened a few weeks ago. We're looking to break out of the money flow index, and at the same time, we're looking to break out of a certain area. You can look at it in two ways. You've got the 20 moving average on the weekly, so the 20 weekly sitting around $2.40. Then you've got a horizontal, which is around $2.50. Once you've broken out of price action on a weekly, so you've got to close above those areas. With obviously we've got momentum brewing, broken out, but you're looking for money flow to break out. We're looking to see a breakout of price, money flow, and momentum, and then that should give you a new all-time high pretty quickly. And knowing how XRP moves, I would expect to see that very quickly. So we're very close to having a technical breakout on a higher term time frame for XRP. You see that launch, you're going to have a nice time, and obviously, I have plenty of XRP. I suppose these videos I make are pretty biased, really. I only really make stuff that I'm trading. There's no point in me making stuff that I'm not trading. That is what the live streams are supposed to be about, but unfortunately, I've not been able to do those live streams because of personal things going on at the moment. But normally, we do look at loads of charts on the live stream. It's just unfortunate I can't do it right now. But long story short, the market does look good. Bitcoin on a higher term time frame has been a weekly, suggesting actually it wants to go much higher for a prolonged period of time. Same thing, I suppose, with XRP. Ethereum still stuck, mostly in a bearish scenario, but that doesn't mean that it can't lift itself up over the next few months. We'll have to think of some good rhyming words, really, won't we, to help up with our particular bias. All right, finally, I'll go on the Bitcoin dominance chart. Thanks to Ethereum's move yesterday, we are starting to see a bit more of a dramatic rejection. We're down over 1% this morning. Now, we've been talking about how the Bitcoin dominance chart has a very high money flow index read. It was the third highest it's ever had in its life. Oh, actually, yeah, it was still the third highest it was ever in its life. Although I don't count this one from back in 2015 because altcoins were very just not anything really, to be honest with you. This one in 2018 was the last really big one. But we've had big ones. Look, January 2021 was all the way up here, 80.4. And that's where the big alt season took place, 2021. So if there is going to be some kind of alt season, and I keep saying the word and it never comes to fruition, but it's worth recognizing that certain signs have been brewing to suggest an alt season is capable of taking place. There's the capacity for an alt season at these areas. Although every time you say the word alt season, someone shoots you down. That always makes me feel better about it. Because if nobody's expecting it, nobody's wanting it, or nobody thinks it's possible, and that's usually the sort of time that you'll actually get one. That was exactly what happened in 2021. Bitcoin had rallied 300%. Altcoins basically stayed static, and people were saying to me, "I'm going to sell my altcoins. They're just losing money. I'm going into Bitcoin, which has already gone up 300% in the last few months." I'd be like, "Okay, no comment, no comment." You know, trading is counterintuitive. People wanting to get in on the Bitcoin rally and out of the decay of the altcoins. Realistically, the rotation which was about to take place generated the largest alt season in living history outside the inception of altcoins, 2017 really, when there was the equivalent of a dot-com bubble for altcoins. So yeah, we are looking at overheated read. We're looking at bearish divergence over here as well. Regular bearish divergence on the RSI, all on the weekly. And look, I'm not saying it has to happen, but if it were to happen, it has been waiting to happen around this 64% dominance area, and the targets are there's many targets on the way down. But when you're thinking about an overheated chart and potential for a big turnaround, an opposing move, we've been thinking this is going to be the place now for about 3, maybe even 4 weeks. And look, it's only 1% down, so let's not get overexcited. But that's what we're thinking. Right, so I suppose that is enough of an overview for you to hopefully sink your teeth into. Look, I just want to reiterate, right? Whatever happens in the short term is fine. That's for the traders out there. If you're a successful trader or a decent trader or a confident trader, you're probably not waiting for tidbits from a YouTuber. You're probably capable of doing it yourself. But if you're looking for a bit of guidance in the market, everything still remains exactly the same as I have expected, which is that the 4-year cycle is still on track to make new highs this year. Between now and September, I've never felt comfortable deviating from a model which still currently fits. It has still fit. We'll only know the 4-year cycle is broken in hindsight, and so we'll have to wait for 4 years to elapse. Have we made a peak prior to that? Have we not been able to make a new high, before the 4-year cycle is destined to be finished? And as far as I'm aware, that I can tell, the 4-year cycle should be finishing around September this year, so a little bit further to go. Only when those dates elapse can we reflect and go, yeah, the cycle is broken. You can't say it before, because people were saying that last cycle. The cycle's broken. The cycles are going to extend. Same sort of chirping I can hear at the moment, or I've been hearing for months now, actually. I don't see it. All I see is a pretty bullish chart with the capacity for continuation and meeting my targets from a rough time frame or a month. September, we'll have to think of a rhyming word which fits it, because I have an idea that it will peak around September. So let me know in the comments what sort of words rhyme with September, because after September comes October, and everybody thinks it's going to be Pumptober again, that they did in the last October, and there was no Pumptober then, was there? So maybe we should forget about the thesaurus of bull markets. Right, I'll leave it with you there. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a nice day. Take it easy.